You're listening to the Racing Virginia podcast. Now, here are your hosts.
And welcome to episode number 75.
Is it 5?
I think it's 75. I'm pretty sure it's 75.
Could be 5.
I think so.
It's like, yeah, that's an anniversary episode then if it is. I need to look.
I'm Dave C.
I'm Brandon Brown, not the NASCAR
There we
driver.
go. Oh, man, what a weekend. What a weekend. The race at Langley Speedway.
Yeah?
Very controversial, it seems.
Yeah.
By the way, the guys, the big modifieds from Bowman Gray went to
Is it Franklin?
Franklin County.
Yeah.
And had a race. I haven't checked and see what the deal was there, but those cars are
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been to Bowman Gray, but
I've not.
you have to make a trip to Bowman Gray just for a regular week, not for a special event, regular weekly race. Now, I don't think they're racing right now. I think that's the reason why they went to Franklin.
Yeah.
But, man, there's some family feuds there, baby.
Oh, I have heard people at Langley were talking about the fact that they're having that race there and what they were expecting to happen there. And I don't know what happened there this weekend, but
Yeah, 'cause
hopefully it was entertaining.
Langley's had the big wheeling. I still call them the wheeling modifieds, but they are a phenomenal division to watch, and so we probably need to get the promoter or somebody from Franklin County on.
Yeah.
They've been really
new frontier for us.
kind of under the radar.
Yeah.
Out there in the western part of the state. But they put on some great races. They have decent car counts, and then of course they had the Bowman Gray guy. I had all of them come up pretty much.
So we got to get we got to get somebody on, and 2, we got to make a trip out there at some point, or I do at least.
Well, the other thing is that we really need to have some of those drivers on.
Yeah.
From the western part of the state, especially with Motor Mile closed this year. But speaking of feuds,
the Hampton Heat.
There was a lot of heated individuals at the end of that thing.
Yeah, there were.
But
Specifically, Corey Hahn, Connor Hall.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I would have taken the same move.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't from the videos that I've seen, because I wasn't there in person, but from the videos that I saw, it didn't look like Brenden Queen did anything wrong. He just went to the bottom. I mean, he had an opening. They let him, if you leave that bottom open, especially at Langley.
Yeah. So, and that's,
you got to take it.
So I was there. I was helping.
3 wide. Who knew?
Yeah.
Just who knew?
3 wide down into turn 1 at Langley. That's fine. I was there doing social media for Langley, so I was there standing on the front stretch as they go down into turn 1, and they got the safety trucks down there. If you're in the infield, you can't really see once they dive into the corner exactly what happened. So I saw Brenden go 3 wide, and I was like, oh man, because he took it. He took it. I mean, you had 2 laps to go.
You had to know he was there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so he goes down there, and then on the other side of it, he's the only one coming out of it, and I was like, oh man, what just happened? But if you go back and look at the video, he's got all 4 tires down on the apron. He doesn't make a move to come up into them. I think the Heat from them, obviously, because they got knocked out of the race, both Corey and Connor Hall, and Danny Edwards, who was the third best car, or second or third best car all night. The heat was coming from the fact that they were the 2 best cars all night long. They were up there battling for the win, and Brenden hadn't run that great. He said in post race that the car was real tight. He just couldn't get up there, and over the course of the last few restarts, he made some really good moves. Got himself up into third spot there on that last restart, and I mean he had to go for it. Yeah. He had to go for it, and that's what he said in his post race interview. And he was unapologetic for the move that he made, but he also said that he's like, if I get some retaliation here down the line, I expect it. But they said, after the flag drops, you can go 3 wide, you can jump out of line right there, and that's what he did. So they were
again leave the bottom open.
Yeah, that's what he did.
You're going to expect somebody. You have to expect somebody to be down there. I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah. And that's what happened. And
I mean, when you're going, it's $10,000.
Yeah.
And the Hampton Heat win.
Yeah.
It's the biggest race of the year for Langley.
And his biggest race thus far in his career too that he was going for.
He's been running good of late. I mean, obviously we talked to Danny Edwards. Him and Danny Edwards had a great battle for the win a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, in fact, Danny Edwards and Brenden were third and fourth, right behind these guys. And so I mean. I know Danny probably wasn't happy either.
No, because Danny got Danny's car didn't get messed up too bad, but he got into a position where he lost.
He had to stop.
Yeah, he had to stop. But no, at the moment, I thought it was just from standing there in the infield. If you saw it in person, you were like, oh man, that had to be a dirty move, but it wasn't. It just wasn't.
Talk about the. The feel there, but with the fans and with the competitors, and I mean, obviously with this COVID-19, it wasn't. I mean, it lived up to his name, the Hampton Heat.
Hampton Heat. It was hot. It wasn't hot as last year, but it was hot.
Yeah. But to talk about the atmosphere there at Langley for this event.
It was really, really good. I mean, you would not think that they were only limiting to so many fans, because the crowd, the people who were there were into it, especially at the end of the 200. Man, they were vocal. They were having a good time. Had a couple bologna burgers, and just the atmosphere there was really, really fun. And especially down on pit road. I mean, the competitor, everybody was into it. You would have not thought that we were dealing with what we were dealing with, because it was a great day at the racetrack.
So, from all aspects, I think it looked like it was a good success.
Yeah. Oh, it was a success, especially like. I mean,
I talked to Vaughn Monday.
Yeah.
And he's like, gotta wait till tomorrow. Don't know what's going to happen when the governor comes on and talks. So they were a little worried that he was going to roll things back, and that they were not going to be able to have it at all. So. So kudos to Vaughn Crittenden, Chuck Hall, Bill Mullis, and the whole staff at Langley Speedway.
Yep.
Really, I think quickly getting this thing promoted.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
Everybody's known about it.
They sold out. They sold as many tickets as they possibly could have. They were excited about that, and I was happy. One, that they asked me to come down and be a part of it, which was really cool.
He said he was going to be too busy.
Yeah,
he needed somebody's social media help.
Give me the keys to the social media car and told me not to wreck it. So that was fun, and I had a good time doing that, and a lot of really good content that came out of it too. Which people seem to enjoy. I did a grid walk live on the grid.
I know. I was a little upset. I had to get. Well, you did it for Langley anyway. But I was going. I even told people to watch the Racing Virginia Facebook page.
Yeah.
And then I didn't see anything. I'm like, oh God, I'm so.
But that was because I was focused on Langley Speedway. I had to pick my priorities in what I was doing, and
it's a shame you can't. It's a shame you can't send it at the same time to two.
Yeah.
It's just
you got to share it after.
Yeah,
the
you just have to share it after. It's just no way to do that unless you're actually doing it through a computer and sending it everywhere, and that's hard, because then you're going to have. It's not with a phone. Now you're having to work with a camera.
Yeah. You have to do with what technology you have at that point, which was fun with me.
I ended up sharing it.
Yeah, so. I appreciate that. I was
look,
last year
I need to take. You do a great job with the social media on Racing Virginia Facebook and everything. I need to take a better role at helping you.
That's okay. We
share some of this stuff. I get a little nervous sometimes to do it, even though now I'm an editor. I'm allowed.
We gave him privileges.
Gave me sort of a key.
Yeah.
They don't, and Brenden definitely doesn't want me to wreck it.
Yeah. Just that was.
Watch what you say. Watch what you do.
Yeah, because one thing that you can do
Yeah.
very easily is
yeah.
post personal stuff to the business page and business stuff to the personal page.
It does.
And,
It's you have to
it's
watch.
easy, and you could like things from either one, and you
Yeah.
don't know which one you're doing sometimes, and you can comment.
I have found that I'm better off if I like something or share something. I actually go to my personal account.
Yeah.
And do it, because then it doesn't switch over. Mm-hmm. Even if Racing Virginia comes up on my timeline, even though I'm an editor, it still doesn't say, okay, it's from Racing Virginia. I have to be on the Racing Virginia one.
Sometimes you're playing roulette with it, and you just
trust me, I know. Same thing with the Virginia Motor Speedway one. Lord have mercy.
6-7 years of doing this, I haven't made any grave dire mistakes on social media yet, but I've shared some. I've shared business stuff, like say from the Richmond page to my personal page when I thought I was putting it on Richmond, but I haven't done the other way around, which is a good thing. Yeah, nobody wants to see my airplane selfies on the Richmond Raceway Instagram.
Well, we do have a great show for you, and we're working on another great show for next week already. Yeah. We're trying to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah.
We're doing pretty good. Today's show, we have Willie Mullins, ARCA driver from Fredericksburg, Virginia. He is the husband of our bud, Dinah Mullins.
Dominion.
Up in Dominion, and we're going to talk to him about how he got into the ARCA stuff, because it sounds like it was an addiction. Started with one car, and then next thing you know, you got a big hauler and a bunch of cars.
Yeah.
We're also gonna have story time with Randy Hallman.
Another great story.
Yeah, I haven't heard. He actually texted me this week and said, "Hey, have I told this story to you yet?" And I said, "No, we need to hear that."
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away, so we'll wait until we introduce him. But
leave it to Randy.
And then we have, guess it. Drum roll, please. Butterbean, Brenden Queen, on to talk about the Hampton Heat and talk about his racing career. It's the first time that we've had him on, so that ought to be an interesting. That's probably going to get a lot of shares, I would bet.
A few. I'm interested to see his perspective a few days removed from the heat of the moment, because I talked to him right after the fact, and now that he's had a couple days to digest it, not only that moment, but the fact that he won the Hampton Heat. So I'm interested to hear about that too.
And it's always nice after a couple of days, you know. And to be honest with you, I really don't think it's going to change that much.
Yeah,
I don't think his perspective is going to change that much from what he thought. I mean, I'm like you. I told you, you leave the bottom open in Langley.
Mm-hmm. They're going to take it.
Someone's going to take it. Let's go to the HoosierDriver.org hotline and talk to a driver out of Fredericksburg, Virginia.
There we go.
He is one of the only ARCA drivers right now from the state of Virginia, which we normally have a few. You normally see him in the number 3, but the last 2 races you've seen him in the number 11. Crow Wing Recycling, Bugsley's Repair, Bugsy's.
There you go.
There we go. Bugsy's Repair, Ford. And we got a lot to talk to him about. He is Willie Mullins. How you doing, Willie?
I'm doing good today. Thank you all for having me on today.
First of all, you had some pretty good runs here this year.
Yeah, not too bad. You know, it's one of those things. I'm still learning these mile and a halves, and you know, I'm new to that stuff. You know, I'm my road racing background, things like that, and you know, we're learning. Unfortunately, the car counts aren't the greatest, but this is the time for me to learn and try to get better at mile and a half tracks.
That's the one thing. The ARCA and K&N East and West merged. So now we have ARCA East, ARCA West, and ARCA.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
And there's certain events that everybody comes together, and there's some events that are only for ARCA West drivers and ARCA East drivers. So, I figured as it went into this year, Willie, that it was probably going to be a little bit of a change, because a lot of these guys are having to change over cars.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's definitely one of those things. There's a couple rules that were changed, so it's hurt some of the smaller teams, and you know, unfortunately, the cost of racing, as you know, goes up every year.
The last couple times, I mean, it was a great story in Speed Sport about a former ARCA champion giving you a phone call. And the last couple of races, you kind of hooked up with Andy Hillenberg. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was one of those things. We were after Daytona. We didn't plan on running anymore this year. With the COVID-19, it's really hurt our business, and we just haven't had the funds. So unfortunately, the same things happened with the series. Well, we need to make sure the series lives. And Andy Hillenberg gave us a call, and we came together to work together so we didn't have a large cost going to these races, and I could get some more experience. And that's when it started at Talladega, and then we went to Kentucky. And, we may do one or two more races by the end of the year. I don't know, but we're going to try to make sure the series lives on and continues to be a good series for people to get their feet wet in touring series.
The nice, I've only met him once, but Andy Hillenberg, he seems like such a phenomenal guy.
Absolutely. He goes out of his way to help people. It's one of those guys that's trying to make a buck in racing and not make $1 million, but just make a good living. And that's what he does. And he knows, and he's the same way we are. We got to have a series to make sure these guys can get developed to move up to the top series.
The one thing that I have noticed, Willie, is that you take care of your car. I don't see you. I don't see you in a lot of mix-ups. And that's what's taken me longer to figure out these mile and a half. If we had unlimited money and unlimited cars, I would just drive it down in the corner wide open and figure out where the edge is and back it in the fence and just grab another one. But we can't. We always got to have fenders on it, and we always got to make sure we can fix it in-house. And that's what we've done these past, ran ARCA for, I think, 12 years now. So, we may not have the stellar finishes, but we're definitely going to try to bring a car home every time we can. Well, you have a high finish of second at none other than Daytona International Speedway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that race, and specifically the unlimited green, white checker finishes that you had to maneuver through to get that finish.
Well, it's one of those things. It's hard to explain, but when it's your day, it's your day. And just getting in the car that day, it felt like that day. I don't know why. And it just everything worked. I was calm in the car the entire time, and then we had that first really big wreck. And when we're going through, you got cars flying over top of cars, and we're going right down through the middle of it, and I kind of was waiting for something to come in front of me or hit me, but it never did. And that first red flag, we were just sitting there on the back straightaway. And at that point, it was like, man, I think we're going to be okay. And I think we were 10th or 15th with one lap to go. We were hoping to come out of there with a top 10. And then we had another big wreck. And I think we just worked our way through on that last red flag. We were 7th coming to the checkered flag, and then I come out the other side and it's me and Michael Self. So it was one of those things that it just all clicked. I think we had a total like 2 hours worth of red flags we were sitting there on the back straightaway for. So it was hot in there, but it never felt out of my reach. I felt like we were in the catbird seat that night, and it came together. And it was one of the highlights of my racing career.
What is it like for anybody? Most people who have never done it. What is it like racing at Daytona?
The first time you go there and you go through the tunnel and you go up there and you just look up at the banking and the corners and the banking's 3-4 stories high. It's definitely takes your breath away. And as you go there every year, it becomes more and more the normal. But it still has that feeling. And then this year it's going to be a complete change for us. This year we get to race on Saturday, the day before the 500. So we're running with the nationwide guys and we're going to be part of the show this year, I guess you could call it. So we're definitely looking forward to that. I'm hoping this COVID thing kind of slacks off enough where we can have fans back and it'll be a completely different atmosphere, because usually when we're leaving is when the parties are starting and things like that in the infield. So this year we're definitely going to be part of it.
I know with your background, you would love to have the ARCA on the Daytona road course.
Oh, I do. And unfortunately, financially, me and my wife, are at terms with trying to make that work, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to make that race work. It's just unfortunate, timing right now and money, but we're definitely, going to keep working towards racing again this year.
Gotcha. That's that's going to be a new thing. Unfortunately, you won't be able to race in it. But what do you expect to see in that race, particularly?
I think it'll have a lot of action. There's going to be a limited practice if they even have a practice. And these guys are going to be down that back straightaways deceiving down into the chicane. So you're going to see a lot of guys sliding down through there backwards, taking people out. It's going to be very interesting because you're going to be, 180 miles an hour. You're going to be as fast on the road course through turn 4 into the trial as you are in the super speedway race. So there's definitely a lot of speed still there at that road course.
Now, let's talk about your background in road racing. I mean, I think you're on a board of the V8 Road Racing Series.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about your background.
It's one of those things. I had drag raced my whole life. My dad's been a drag racer, and so is my brother. And I got to the point I wanted to do something different. We work on the cars so much in drag racing that I wanted more seat time. So STCA gives you a really good way to get into road racing, whether you want to do a Miata or, a vintage car or something like that. Well, there was an old NASCAR Cup car, Joe Falk had. So I bought that car from Joe and converted it into a road course car and went to our local track at Summit Point, got my road racing license through SCCA and ran that for 8 or 9 years and just had fun, and didn't cost a lot. And then, ARCA decided to go back to New Jersey Motorsports Park. So at that point, that was our jumping off point to get into big time auto racing. And we ran that for 5 or 6 years up there at New Jersey Motorsports Park and, had moderate success, but, we're doing good. And that's when we decided to finally get into super speedway racing about 5 years ago.
According to your wife, it's an addiction. The ARCA stuff is an addiction.
It is. It's a love-hate relationship.
Started with one car, and then next thing you know, you got 4 and a big hauler.
Yep. It's one of those things I've worked, these past 12 years to build what we have. We own it all, and we built it all, and we worked with, we've had good crew chiefs, and we got a good crew chief with Tony Furr now, and we've worked our way up to make sure we have, the equipment we need and things like that.
It's been a difficult year for everybody. I mean, you talked about it earlier that, business has, not being able to afford racing because of business. It all goes back to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tell us how you kind of been able to, how you've been handling this situation.
Well, it's very scary. We have employees here and they depend on us. So it's one of those things when the pandemic hit, we work on a lot of trash trucks and containers and things like that. Well, at first we were okay, but what happens is, all these commercial restaurants and places that are commercial that people can't go to visit have to start shutting their trash service off, things like that. So then it's a trickle-down effect. Once people can't go to restaurants, the trash isn't getting thrown away, then unfortunately we're on the bottom of that list, and we're one of the first ones to get cut because we're an outside vendor. So, it hurt us for 2 months. We're back to working about 85% now. So we're hoping that we can continue to move back up to where we were and get back to, our normal everyday goal.
All right. Now, we're going to switch gears a little bit because this is the part Brenden, he goes, man, we got to talk to him about this. You've gotten a ton, and I mean a ton of exposure and press for your backyard go-kart track.
Absolutely. So
I'm Branden. I'm telling you, if you look at this, it's prepared like you would go to Capital City or anywhere. I mean, or Amelia back when it was dirt. I mean, they put some work into this thing.
Okay, so tell me, how did this idea come about, and how did you pull it off and keep going with it? I want to know this.
So let's go back to November, right? So in November, we start getting ready for Daytona. But before that, me and my neighbor, Daryl Faree, Peyton Faree, races a modified. So me and him have been kicking it around. He's like, we should build a go-kart track at your parents'. I was like, yeah, we should. So, we're in full prep mode December and January for Daytona, and it kind of gets pushed aside. So, no big deal. Well, we get done at Daytona this year, February. Well, then everybody knows this pandemic starts. It's starting to happen. We go to test at our local track at Dominion with the ARCA car and Peyton and his Modify. And then that Monday, we get a call from ARCA and says, okay, that was your last test for a while. We really don't want anybody out there testing. So, and then NASCAR decides to pull everything back then too. So we're all sitting around, and Davey Callahan, he just works up the street here. He comes in. He's like, we need to build a go-kart track. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I got a couple flat carts. He said, I've been playing in my yard. I said, me and Daryl have been talking about it for a while. So let's do it. So I get the equipment together. We have a good neighbor over here next to our shop, SKS Construction. He's got some Bobcats he lets me borrow. And my parents have a little piece of land we had cleared a long time ago. I was like, all right, it's time to get that burn pile cleaned up, get that out of the way. Let's do that. And then another friend of ours, Philip Searles, his daughter races modifieds also with Peyton. He's like, hey, I got this other piece of equipment. So it was just one of those big joint efforts. All of us got together and built this track. Believe it or not, from when we started moving dirt to the end of that Sunday, we were on go-karts in one day. It wasn't perfect by no means, but then every weekend we raced 8 weeks straight. Every weekend we just made it better. Philip came over, Daryl came over, Peyton came over, and we just kept working and making it faster and better and smoother. And it turned into what is actually a test track now. A friend of ours, DJ Powell, he's coming over this weekend just to test so he can go to Capital City in a couple weeks.
That's awesome.
I think you call it White Oak?
White Oak Speedway. Yep.
Yeah. Now I think
so. It's one of those things. And then I was like, let's get my wife involved because she had not much to do since there's no racing. So she started doing the promoting and making it look good. And it was just a group of us, 10 or 12 racers that got to have some fun on Saturdays and Sundays for a little while.
Now, I think we need to do a Racing Virginia podcast video feature at this White Oak Speedway that you're speaking of right now.
Branden needs a cart. Branden needs a cart.
We got plenty. That's what we have is we have extra carts there for people that just want to show up and have some fun.
You're talking.
We had Sergio Pena show up one weekend. We've invited other people, so we're going to have some fun with it over the summer, and especially this fall when racing slows down, we're going to get back at it.
See, Branden had a alternative motive about having a video for a race in Virginia. He wants to be in that video.
Of course,
absolutely.
Of course, I think. You talked about people who just want to show up. You're talking to two people who just want to show up right now.
Absolutely.
By the way, did you notice when he talks about ARCA and his road racing, he sounds excited.
Yeah.
But when we switched over to backyard go-karting, man, it went through the roof. The excitement level went through the roof. I thought it was cool because Speed Sport actually did an article on this on his track back.
Yep. Adam Fenwick did an awesome little article, and it just wanted to show because we know a couple people out in Minnesota that had a little backyard track. I think Ryan from After Hours down here in Richmond had one, and it was just us racers that want to race, that couldn't race, figured out a way to race, and that's just how it is.
But I'm telling you, Willie, I'm thinking that you could, I mean, I know you got 10 or 12 guys on a regular basis, but I bet easily with a couple of phone calls to Ryan Burrow and a couple other people, you could probably have a field of 20 plus carts.
Yeah,
Easily.
absolutely. You know, and we're keeping them to the stock Harbor Freight motors.
Yep.
You know, go buy $100 motor. Now we do have to make sure that these motors do stay kind of legal. You know how racers are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you know, I'm just as bad. You know, I have a little bit of weight on everybody, so I had to make sure I could carry myself around that track to keep up with Davey and Peyton and stuff like that.
Yeah, a little bit more left side weight. So I mean, that's all.
That's right.
Just a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Man,
Yep.
we can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your schedule at work to spend some time with us. You know, our goal here is to introduce folks, drivers to the rest of the world. Not just Virginia, but to the rest of the world that they may not know of. I mean,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you know, you've been racing ARCA for 12 years. I had no idea.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where a 1 to 2 to 3 race a year kind of team. You know, because when we go out there, we want to run it at 110%.
Right.
You know, and that's one of the things too. You know, and then with my wife into the media side, you know, especially with this new TikTok app that's come out, it's really been able to show the backside of our team and what we're doing and things like that. You know.
Yeah, and I thank you from me to your wife to you guys at Dominion too, because she sent me a Facebook message before their opening night with fans, and I came down and the hospitality there and the facility there is just phenomenal. So thank Dinah from me. I thanked her in person, but yeah, it was just phenomenal, the action and the facility there.
What is the TikTok? Is it Mullins Racing?
So, I can't remember. I think it's on Dinah Mullins. It's under that.
Her personal one.
Yep.
Okay.
It's her personal, but it shows all of her behind the scenes footage of what we're doing, you know, getting to the track. It's a small team. It's a lot simpler to find little simple videos like that now with TikTok, so it works great. Mm-hmm. Showing these 1 minute little videos.
Willie, I think your next race car needs to be a dirt late model.
I'd love to run anything dirt. I've been on dirt a couple times. I got to go to Minnesota one time and run a what was it? I can't. It was a modified.
Yeah.
It was an IMCA little modified. It was pretty cool. We went and tested. It was actually so my father-in-law had a vintage dirt car, and we were just up there turning laps on a Saturday. And this guy comes over to me and says, "Hey, you want to get my dirt modified?" And I was like, "You don't even know me." He's like, "Oh, I'm not worried about it." So this guy was maybe 150 pounds soaking wet. So I had to pry myself down into a seat, but I wasn't going to turn that down, you know.
Oh,
so
heck no.
Anything with a motor, I'll race it.
Yeah. Folks, you can follow him at mullinsracing.net. On Facebook, he's Mullins at Mullins Racing. On Twitter, he's at Mullins_racing. Did you have an Instagram?
I do. That's more of Dinah's stuff. So,
okay. Yeah.
you know, the Mullins Racing has all that stuff. So usually if you go to our website, you can link right to all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So if anybody, you know, has any questions or things like that, they can get a hold of me or Dinah through our website. And ask, you know, we have hero cards that we send out all the time. Anybody's welcome to get those. So, you know, hit us up or send us a self-addressed stamped envelope and we'll get it taken care of.
By the way, I wanted to say that that her TikTok is Dinah, DINAHM Mullins, and yours, my friend, is
He knows it.
Oh, I already got it. Let's see.
He's on it.
Willie Mullins .3. And
there you go.
And combined, they have over 1,500 followers and 2,000 or 20,000 likes, and some really cool stuff on there. So follow them on TikTok.
Yeah, and
TikTok.
Believe it or not, my best one is Daryl putting fuel in the car, and we almost have 1 million views on that one video.
Yeah.
So, you know, we definitely do stupid videos, but we also have some serious ones.
Well, if anybody knows TikTok, it's very stupider.
Yeah.
It's very stupid, and the stupider videos get the most likes.
Absolutely.
Willie, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us, man, and we look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you having me on today.
All right,
All right, see ya.
folks, he is
Who is he?
He is Willie Mullins.
Is he?
Yeah. I heard a beep beep, but I know what that was. That was just, I don't know, man.
It's Monday morning, man.
Oh, I know.
You just talked to him. He was good.
Yeah, he is.
I'd never talked to him before.
He's a phenomenal guy. He really is. And
it's funny, if I'd have known who he was at the time, I would have been rooting for him instead of Michael Self at the end of that Daytona race.
But we got a lot of guys that are kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff we want to do here. I know that's the same thing you want to do here. In promoting drivers that really don't, look, Diana does a great job of promoting him.
Fantastic job.
But I mean, I've been around racing here in the state of Virginia for a long time, and over 30 years. And I didn't know he ran ARCA.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
12 years?
Yeah, 12. I mean, he's been doing it for 12 years.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you what, these shows are getting better and better every year. Really, I mean, every year, every week,
every
year too. I mean, this is year 3.
Yeah.
So. And we need your help, folks. We tell you at the end all the time, but the one thing you need to always remember is if you have a suggestion, please send it to us at info@racingvirginia.com. That's info@racingvirginia.com.
That's unfortunate that he's not going to get to run the Daytona road course that because ARCA's running it, and he, obviously on that type of track, a driver with his experience could make a better run out of possibly what the car is going to give him on that track, and I would have loved to have seen that.
Opportunity, which, like he goes, I mean, he finished second.
Yeah.
But he's always been that kind of, if you look back at some of his videos and and even this last race for ARCA, he stays out of trouble. The car comes home in one piece.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, that's what you need. That's what you build on.
As we so aptly said earlier in the show, Mr. Brown, there is that we're going to have the winner of the 12th annual Hampton Heat at Larry King Law's Langley Speedway. Of course, he is from Chesapeake, Virginia. He is the driver of the number 03 Old School Video Games and More CarCover.com Ford Mustang. He is Brenden Butterbean Queen. What's up, Butterbean?
Hey, thank y'all for having me. How y'all doing?
Great. Before we get talk Hampton Heat, let's talk nickname, because this is probably I don't know any other Butterbeans. You know Butterbean?
Not personally.
It's one of my favorite vegetables.
Yeah.
But how did you come up with that nickname?
So pretty much when I was born, I was fat and chubby and had blonde chicken hair, and I looked like the boxer Butterbean.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's stuck. And then my friends found out about it, and then school was calling me by that in class, and then I ended up putting it on my race car, and it's kind of my brand now. Like, in the racing world, when you think of that name, you think, I'm the only one out there. So that makes it nice.
Well, I mean, as a marketing guy, and I know Brandon's is thinking the same thing, man. There's so much apparel you could come up with.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's been crazy. We've actually branded a lot of my logos and stuff to. It looks like a beanstalk and a couple of other things.
Let's talk a little bit about your history. You started off in go-karts, kind of went to the mini cup cars, then you went to legends, and then you went into late models. That you literally climbed that ladder to get to late models.
Yes, sir. I started running on dirt go-karts, and we had a lot of success. I think we ran 3 seasons and won 3 championships and over 30 races. We then moved up for the winter. We knew we were going to go to legend cars, but during the winter we got an opportunity to drive an arena car in the Coliseums around Virginia, and that was quite an experience. We had good runs there and a good season, and then that's what propelled into 2 legend car seasons where we won a bunch of races at Southside, won one at Langley, and got a championship and a state championship. And then it was time to go with the big boys after that. And when you move up from the little stuff to the big boys, you know how that goes. It's a lot more money, a lot more time, and a lot harder to win. So we've been running late models since 2013.
And the success in the late model has you kind of creeped up on this. I mean, you start. I mean, I don't think anybody gets in a late model. I mean, most everybody, and probably 99.9% of the people, you don't win on your first time, and a lot of times you don't even win in your first season. You've really grown in that late model, and I've been able to watch you at Langley and some other tracks around Virginia, and even North Carolina. And your success level is starting to really match, I think, what you want it to be.
Well, I kind of got spoiled. My first late model race, you'll never forget your first, and it was a 150 lap race at Langley, and it was new pavement, and a lot of good cars. I qualified third out of however many were there, which about 20, I would say. And we actually finished fourth, and I'm like, man, this is a great start, and I mean, everybody was talking to me, and everybody's like, man, you're gonna win one of these things quick, and I'm like, okay, like that'd be awesome.
Yeah, this stuff's easy.
Well, I come back the next week and we run fourth again, and I'm like, man, we're right there, And then it went for like weeks of wrecking the nose off on lap one, piled up, and then the car got the toe gets knocked out or something gets bent, and then it's like we're trying to make sure everything's right, and we're running horrible, we're running in the back, and then Phil Warren comes along at the end of the year, and we get paired together, and actually, I backed it up. I went to Martinsville driving for Larry Nelson out of Richmond, and finished seventh my first year at Martinsville, which was really, really awesome. Just to make the race was my only goal. And then, for Myrtle Beach's stuff, we got hooked up with Phil Warren, and Phil Warren's been with me ever since, grooming me and molding me into what I am now. And he's been a big part of, helping me mature as a driver on and off the track. And, we got that championship in 2016 together, but our biggest downfall is Langley. Everybody's like, Phil won so many races, crew chief for Steve Falk, and y'all aren't winning. So what's the problem? And it's like times are different, technology's different, cars are different. I mean, competition's gotten really, really hard, and we're not the biggest team by any means, but I will say, from last year to this year, we got some newer metal under us and a newer car, and it makes a difference. And I've only ran it twice this year, opening night at Langley and in the Hampton Heat, but second race in this car, and we won the biggest race of the season at Langley. So it's just amazing.
Well, we might as well transition to it. You talk about the Hampton Heat winning the, you won your career best event. In the Hampton Heat, and I don't know if I've talked to Brenden about this before, but Langley's a hard track to get around.
Sure.
You talk to a lot of guys, and it's flat, but it almost feels like it's banked the opposite way. I don't.
I'm gonna tell you, Langley. We were having this conversation riding over there Saturday morning. I had some guys that pitched in to help me out this weekend, and I said, this is the hardest track we raced at. And I remember we're riding through the tunnel on the way there, and I'm like, there's no place like this. I was like, you can go anywhere else, and you might not win, but I swear it's way easier to drive.
Yeah, if you can pass at Langley and another track, Southside Speedway in our backyard.
Oh, yeah.
If you can pass at those two tracks, most drivers will tell you can pass anywhere, because they're probably two of the hardest tracks to actually get to the outside, or than like South Boston, that's banked, and you have, the other tracks are fairly easy to get to the outside if you got a car set up. But South side, I don't care if you got a perfect setup. That outside is tough.
Oh yeah, for sure. I never ran a late model at Southside. I've watched them and I've heard stories, but I even ran a legend car there, and it was still a little bull ring for them,
Well, Hampton Heat. Go ahead, Brenden. I know you got. He's percolating up there on top.
I was there. I was there. I saw. Well, if you remember, I was the guy that asked you to do that video in Victory Lane on the cell phone. So I was helping them out with social media. And I want to first. We'll get to the move and we'll get to the win. But I want to go earlier in the race because you said your car was tight. You couldn't get up there with those top four. They were quite fast enough to do it. But what changed, and then what helped you get up there into position?
I actually looked at the scoring this morning, and we fell back to 19th at one point. And I seriously thought our shot at it was over. Like I was telling you in Victory Lane, we were definitely tight, but I think that I never lost my drive off, and drive off is so important there. That even if you're tight, but you can get the gas down, when the tires get burned up, that's how you win at that place. So we actually worked. We were going to pit on lap 100 and make adjustments when I was running 19th, and then we had that caution, and I think we went from 19th all the way back into the top 10 on the outside by passing them on the outside, and that kind of changed our race. That put us back in the contention. I feel like that gave me life back in the race car. It gave the team life. And I'm like, we can't pit, guys. We cannot give up the track position again. So we waited till 150, made a few small adjustments because we didn't really know how much we needed to adjust since we passed all those cars. But at the same time, I'm thinking, got to do something because we're not good enough. But we went back green, and car still wasn't any better. It was about the same. And I just made sure on the restarts I picked the right line, and every restart it seemed like we would gain a spot or so, and eventually we got in the top 5, and it's like, it's getting close now.
I think I tweeted that out because they're getting about 20 laps to go. The cautions started coming, and then you were 6th, and then you were 5th, and then you were 4th, and I think that's when I tweeted, "Hey, Butterbean has joined the party." So where how were you able? You say you picked the right line, but to tell the listeners, like, what does that mean exactly? What were you doing to get up there?
Well, you can't give up a row on a restart. That means if you have to take the top, even though you don't want to, like say you're 8th and it lines up like it would have for a double file restart, instead of staying on the bottom and being 9th and giving that guy that was running 9th your 8th spot, even though it's on the outside, you just lost a row. So now basically if you take a restart and the caution comes out immediately, that guy is going to hit your spot ahead of you because he's already ahead of you at the line. So it's like my spotter's counting the cars out, and it's like we got to take the shortest line every restart here, whether it's the top or the bottom. And, the good Lord was on our side. Can't win these races without him. And he helped make sure every line went for me, and we were in the right spot. And you got to have a little luck on your side. And it seemed like every restart we would nose ahead of the guy, and caution would come out, and we'd gain that spot. And that's kind of how we played out, where we went on the restart.
Yeah, with about 14 to go, the top 4 guys were pretty much under a blanket. Mm-hmm. Corey Heim and Connor Hall were battling for first and second.
Danny and Peyton.
Then you had Danny and Butterbean. Brenden, you were battling
with Peyton Sellers.
Yeah, with Peyton Sellers, and then it was Danny Edwards.
Yeah.
With about 14 to go. It almost looked like the 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
With you two guys racing, but it was first, 3rd and 4th.
I know.
But I will tell you this, and we've said it at the top of the thing, and I know for a fact Phil Warren on that restart where you went 3 wide, I know Phil Warren would have taken that same shot. It looked like that bottom was open and it would allowed you to get to the inside. I mean, talk about that. Go ahead, Brent.
Well,
I was going to set them up for anybody who didn't see it. So we're going 2 to go. We got Connor Hall and Corey Heim on the front row. Corey's on the inside there. They had been the 2 best cars all night long, and old Butterbean's there sitting in third place,
Salivating now.
So. And you got the perfect restart, and you took a shot on the bottom and went 3 wide, and take us from there.
You know, I've done the move before and gotten the lead, but haven't won the race. I finished second in the Hampton Heat, so close to winning, you could taste it. Opening night, I lose by what a lap, lead the white flag and lose. So all these thoughts, pretty much, I'm going through all these thoughts in my head that I finished second in the Hampton Heat before. I've done this move, 3 wide before and got the lead, but I haven't won, haven't pulled it off. And then I'm thinking, opening night, we came up 1 lap short. So all these thoughts are going through my mind leading up to it. And I'm like, man, we got to do something here. I've been watching the restarts all night, and the 78 was definitely, probably the class of the field, and the 77 right there with him. But we're coming to the restarts every time, and the 78 would slow down and then start rolling back up before we got to the start line since we don't have a box. And, I mean, he did it every restart. He didn't ever change it up. So, they're worried about each other. The last 3 or 4 restarts, I mean, they're leaning on each other. And I know they both said, they weren't going to wreck each other for the win. But, I mean, there was times there they were jacked sideways, I don't know if y'all saw that or not. But so I'm watching it. So when we take a restart, the 78, to me, looked like he was content with worrying about the 77. And I don't think any of them thought I even had a chance. And when we got to the flag stand, it was either running the back of the 78 or duck low. And when I ducked low, I'm like, okay, if I'm in there, I'm going to take it. If not, I'm going to give room. Well, I look over and we're door to door before we get in the corner. And I'm like, man, I'm definitely committed now. And it's, we're in there. So we go down in the corner and, initially I thought, man, maybe it was more on my end, but I've watched the replays now and I don't feel as bad about it because when we hit doors, we were dead even when we hit doors, and then he hit the 77, and obviously I would have much rather raced them side by side for the win, but at the same time, man, it's the Hampton Heat, and I was on the bottom, and I was definitely had position on him getting down in there, and
you're talking about being on the bottom and door to door. When I look at it from eyes that weren't there full time, but looking on different video angles and photo angles and everything else, I just feel like Corey Heim, the 78 did not expect you to be there.
Oh, that's what I think too, and I think, like I said, I think he was so worried about the 77. Yeah. That's who he was going to have to beat. That he was. I wasn't driving his car, but I think he was going to go in there a little high to kind of keep him up, and then dime in the corner.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, I know the 78 has a heck of a spotter spotting for him, and I'm sure he knew I was going to. I'm sure he called me down there, but it was just like maybe when the 78 turned back to protect, I was already there, and that's when we hit, and then he bounced off of me and hit the 77, and then the rest was history, really. But hey, I got a lot of hate and I got a lot of love for it, but at the same time, anybody would have done it. That's a real that wants to win those races. I mean, I've seen worse.
Well, that was the thing with me, because I was watching it live, standing at the start-finish line from the infield, and as you go down into the corner, you guys passed those safety trucks, and you can't get a real good view from the infield of exactly what happened. So, as coming out of the corner, you see the two cars that had been up front all night sitting over there in the corner, and you come out of it, and the initial reaction from, say fans or people who were in the infield was, oh man, he dumped him. But when you go back and watch it, you had position, so you can kind of understand.
It's not like he, because like at Brenden, at Langley, a lot of times you got to put a little bumper on the guy in front of you to try to maybe get him a little loose, move him up the track a little bit. You didn't do any. I mean, there was none of that.
You were there.
There was none of that.
There.
I mean,
so the initial reaction I can kind of understand, but after you sit back and watch, you got to be like, man, he made the perfect move.
Look, Phil Warren would have made that move, wouldn't he, Butterbean? He would.
100%. I mean, he was coaching me up on the radio, and
I know it.
When I did it, I asked Phil. I said, "Man," "was that dirty?" He's like, "Man," he's like, "you were in there. Don't worry about it." And obviously they were mad, but I think they were more mad because, I was the last car they expected to have anything to do with it. But at the same time, like you said, it's not like I went in there and rooted them up in the left rear or hit him in the back. I mean, we hit door to door, it wasn't like and then you say I bonsai'd him. I didn't enter the corner any harder than I had all night.
No.
And eventually, I guess we just ran out of room. And when we hit on the replay, I've seen we're door to door, and there's a picture getting in the corner. Connor's actually half a car ahead of Corey, and Corey and I are dead even.
Yep.
And then Corey hit Connor in the left rear, and I don't want anybody to think I'm gloating or bashing them in this interview at all, because I'm not. But they're mad at me, and I don't. They almost got to be mad at each other, because they didn't even. Connor took the top on the restart and put himself, on the top, and he could have stayed third too. So I mean, and I would have took the top, and I would have been in his position. And I know he would have. I've seen him do the 3 wide. He did it to me and Danny. He did it. He did it to Danny and I last year one night. And we've all done it. We've all learned that move. But it's not like I went in there and just dumped them. And that's why I don't feel as bad. I mean, they wanted to fight. Obviously, they were mad, and they were mad I didn't get sent to the rear. But I was told you did nothing wrong by the official. He's like, they left the bottom wide open.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I told Brenden. Butterbean. I told Brenden to start a thing. I said, at Langley, anywhere, if you leave the bottom open, someone's going to take it.
Yeah, and he took it.
Well, and it's like you look back to opening night, man. I didn't lay the bumper to Danny, and we had a great clean race for it, and a lot of respect. And that I felt so bad for Danny in that deal, because he had to stop and lost all his track position. But Danny was one of the first people to come down to my pit and congratulate me. Now, if I would have roughed him up the week before and then this happened, that probably wouldn't have happened. But people are like, man, we lost a lot of respect because you ran so clean the week before and then you did this. And I'm like, at the same time, these people have never been sitting in a race car for 10 grand on the line, a crown jewel 8 model race that I have added to my resume now, that's put me in a different legacy of winning that, with names to win that race. I mean, I will always have that down as a race I've won now.
And some tracks, like at Virginia Motor Speedway, if you stop to avoid hitting somebody in a caution, you're giving your position back. It's a rule that is depending on what track you go to. Langley, Langley's, the rule they have is if you stop, you're involved. You're in part of the caution. I mean, I would have liked to have seen, hey, you stop to avoid trashing somebody's car and your own, and you were smart enough to do that, to go ahead and give you your spot back. And But again, that's up to Langley, and that's up to other tracks. I mean, Virginia Motor Speedway, where I work full time, if you stop and don't hit anything, to avoid the caution, you get your spot back.
Now, okay, so we talked about this this move that got you the win, but there was another restart after that. I mean, we forget that.
Yeah.
Forgot that part. So there's another restart. You got a 2-lap shootout. And you're starting first, and you got Peyton Sellers, who had one of the best cars all night on your outside, and when everybody knows how good he is. Take us through that, and you cleared him pretty well and won by a car length or two.
Yeah, it's actually funny. Peyton and I were roughing each other up getting there, and I was definitely worried because I'm like, if he gets to me, he's going to use me up, and he had already used me up pretty good a couple of laps before that. So I'm thinking to myself that I got to get the best restart of my life. I mean, the Hampton Heat, I can taste it now. We're leading, and I get through the gears good, make sure I don't spin the tires, and once we get on the backstretch, I mean, I got a pretty good gap, and then we took the white. I had a really, really good gap, and I ran my fastest lap on lap 203 of the race.
That's pretty amazing.
And, for me to run my fastest lap of the race on 203, I said, man, it's because we had clean air is what I told them. But at the same time, when we took the checkered, I mean, I had 5-6 car lengths on second because they got the racing, but that thing was out front and checking out, and that's the best. When I took the white and Phil told me, no pressure, buddy, just get it back around here, I'm like, are we really going to win this thing?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I've dreamed of winning that race for years and been so close, and it's like, it didn't feel real. And you take the checkered, and I'm just trying to soak it in because, never rush your victory lap because that's your moment. That's your moment to reflect, and you never know when the next one's going to be. And for me to win again at Langley, considering my first win, I had a little bit of advantage with fresher tires, and I wanted to prove everybody that I could win at Langley without an advantage, without fresh tires, and we got it done, and we got it done in the biggest race. So we knocked 2 off my bucket list right there.
The one thing that we've been talking with the drivers about is this COVID-19 pandemic. This got to make this win even sweeter because it has been really rough on the tracks, on the drivers, the teams that race and want to race every week, and they haven't been able to do it because of the COVID-19 restrictions. So this has got to be maybe even a little sweeter.
Mm-hmm. It is. I think I'm the only winner of a big race this year, so that's pretty cool. Leading the Triple Crown standings right now, so that's even cooler. We unload today and we go back to work, and you can't live in the past. But this ain't a regular win. We get to enjoy being a Hampton Heat winner for another year. So that's the cool part about winning a big race. You got a whole year to be the winner, but we're not done. We want to win. We want to win more races this year. We want to win. We want to win the championship at Langley. I have to because I gotta keep Phil Warren's record intact for him. So I cannot let Danny and Greg tie him.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a good battle.
The one thing I enjoy is every year your new paint or decal scheme. Because he's got the video, old school video and games, the numbers are pixelated or have been, and then he's had, I think, you've had Mario on there before. You had some other game characters.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah, it's been cool having Mario on the left side and Crash Bandicoot on the right side. It kind of gives a younger generation and an older generation something to look at. And then one year we had Donkey Kong on the back throwing barrels at the competition. But the only bad thing about the Hampton Heat is my new suit's supposed to be here today, and that's going to have everything on it to match the car. But I didn't have it in time. But old school video games, man, they started sponsoring me when I was 15. So I was a kid still, and probably still a kid at heart, but having a video game sponsor. How cool is that?
It is.
Well, it's good. It's good to promote, but kids. It gets kids involved.
Exactly.
And what stands out to me is that I played Mario when I was 5 years old, and Mario is recognizable to everybody in the pits and in the stands and stuff. And your car if you just come to your very first race and you're looking for a car to root for, that car stands out beyond any other cars that are on the track. So that's what stood out to me the first time I saw your car.
Yeah, I can't think. I call them Team Bean or Bean Nation. Butterbean fans.
I like
the Butterbean fans are diehard fans.
I like Bean Nation. You need to make some Bean Nation.
Hashtag Bean Nation.
Yeah, hashtag Bean Nation on everything you do, and you need some Bean Nation T-shirts.
Yeah.
I'm about to get on that, especially after y'all said that. It's been crazy the amount of support from the fans I've gotten. I mean, I had messages this week. People like, I picked you to win because you're, my first race ever, and I saw your car. And then, just the amount of people that come down and want T-shirts after the races because they love the car, they love the nickname, and the kids love the car.
Look, I'm telling you right now, Butterbean, what you need to get somebody to cartoon up a Butterbean, but a mean-looking Butterbean, Just
yeah.
With legs and seriously, Bean Nation. And you ought to have some little face mask done,
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
Hashtag Bean Nation.
I have to get Buck Reese on that. He does a lot of my design and stuff. I'm going to have to get him on that. I'm going to
have to call Buck and talk to him about it as well, because I think you need to do a little cartoon Butterbean. And I'm serious. You could really make this into something.
No, I'm with you. I'm telling you, we actually have Butterbean coloring books for kids.
Oh, that's cool.
We have all kinds of stuff. Like the coloring book has pictures from Victory Lane, pictures of my logos, sponsors, and they can color it in. But the kids love it, and you get that brand going. Yeah. It's crazy. You can sell anything as long as it's got your name and logos on it.
Yep.
Well, we wanted to call you, kind of, talk about the Hampton Heat a little bit more. Also, congratulations on winning the 12th annual Hampton Heat. Look, for small teams, $10,000 goes a long way.
Helps us more than anybody will ever know.
Yep.
Folks, he is your 2020 COVID-19 Hampton Heat winner. They should have called it the COVID-19 Hampton Heat.
Talk to Vaughn about that.
Yeah. He is, of course, Brenden Butterbean Queen. You can find him on Facebook at Brenden Queen Racing, on Twitter at @03Butterbean, and Instagram at Butterbean_03.
He got it.
I got them all. So
thank you for having
congratulations
me,
again, my friend, and we look forward to talking to you later in the season.
Hey, thank y'all again, man. It means a lot.
See you, bub.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, he's a cool kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who would have thought you get 30 minutes out of somebody? But that was a good interview.
Yeah, absolutely, and very
There's a lot. I'm just gonna say there's a lot of things you can cut out and make little things. You could probably get 20 out of that.
Oh yeah,
Easy.
Easily. Like I wrote down some of the stuff that I want to hit on later. So yeah, good stuff.
It's always good stuff. It is. It really is. This show, we get to talk to some newer drivers that we've never talked to before, and who would have known that he would be that good at an interview? He really is. That was a really good interview. So, but guess who we've got?
Who you got?
I got a text back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tell us.
And you know what time it is, right, Brandon? It's story time with Randy Hallman. Oh Lord, I love that music.
Oh, I know you do.
Now we just got to get something to put on top of it to introduce him. Right. By the way, Randy, you got a brand new logo coming here real short. We're going to decide this week on which logo we're going to use for you.
That's what we like. Let's have it and let's make it look good.
Well, this week's column, folks, on the RacingVirginia.com website is catching up with Quinn Hoff. Half. Yeah, Half. And of course, then he goes and he becomes the conversation in NASCAR.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. There you go. Tell me again what you're saying there. I'm confused.
Well, there's Brad Keselowski is saying that guys that cause issues on the track, you should be demoted, I guess, back to Xfinity or ARCA or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Our personal feeling on that is that if you did that, you wouldn't have nobody in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Well,
very subjective on who you want to throw down into the other series.
Right. It sounds logical, and then you think about, think how many times Jeff Gordon crashed out before he did anything. I mean, he had a pretty rough go of his rookie year, and think about the problems that Keselowski caused when he was finding his way. It's a tough judgment call, and look, who knows how how somebody's going to turn out.
Yeah.
I mean, we got this kid and he's running at the back in a car that runs at the back. I mean, nobody's going to put that car up front. And if you tried, you would be causing wrecks all the time.
Yeah.
And Quinn House is not causing wrecks all the time. He's back there racing against other drivers who are in the back trying to learn the way, and he's doing okay. He made a mistake yesterday, no doubt about it.
Everybody makes them.
And you're right, and he knows he did, and that's the way it goes. I mean, circumstances will demote him sooner or later if he can't drive.
Right,
but so far, it's just hard to tell.
Yeah, I told Brenden, if you don't do well and you wreck a bunch of equipment, you're the person that has that owns the car that you're in, unless it's your own family team, it ain't gonna take but so many times and it's gonna be somebody else in that car. I mean, we've seen it before.
Sure.
But we need to hit it. I've been waiting this since we talked early in the week. You need to tell us about Baxter Price.
Well, Baxter, it's funny. Actually, it's a very different sort of financial situation. Quinn House comes from a family that owns a trucking business up there in Wyers Cave, Virginia, and I'm sure they're well off enough to contribute to the project and all that to help finance the team to some extent. Although Quinn's a sharp kid, he's a nice kid and a sponsor's dream. So he's got sponsor backing, and will have I think without problem. He's been on social media. He got on and thanked Permatex of all people, a great long time sponsor for NASCAR and so on and so forth. Well, Baxter Price was at the back of the pack, and this was back in the 70s, and he was not a young kid with terrific social skills. He was just a mechanic from Monroe, North Carolina, and he loved the sport, wanted to get in the sport, and owned his own car, and it's something he'd bought secondhand, and came up here, and Richmond was his first race in 1973, and he came to Richmond. And it was a field there were 28 cars, so I'm sure Sawyer was glad to have him and everybody else who showed up. And gets started in the race, and it was the September race. It's his first event ever in the Cup. He'd just driven a little bit of Grand National East, and so there he was, and he made it for like 3 laps, and on the 4th lap he's already getting lapped, and he gets crossed up, and somebody hits him, and he goes sideways, and whoever else goes sideways, and you know the old phrase, "There's nowhere to go." Well, there was literally nowhere to go because turn 4 was jammed. 2 cars went sideways in the car, and the old Richmond half mile was not very wide, and there was nowhere to go. And here comes the field, and bam, 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 one car after another crashes in there, and I'm not sure whose fuel cell went. I think it was Baxter Price's, and all of a sudden there's a huge fire, and I mean this is bad. So cars are burning up, and Baxter's getting out of his car, and people are scrambling out of their car, and Baxter gets burnt. Nobody else got hurt very much at all. I think maybe Bill Champion's Ford got in there and he hurt his wrist or something like that. But Baxter got burned, like second degree burns on his hands and face and so on and so forth. But they get him out. And I mean, it's funny. I read later that they never had an actual red flag, although they stopped the race because he couldn't get through. But it was like they didn't throw the red flag so that everybody could work on the cars, and they got some of the cars back in the race so they'd have a race. But anyway, Baxter had to go to the hospital. They took him over to MCV to their burn unit, and he would have been hurt, but okay, except that turns out he was allergic to the penicillin or whatever they gave him, and darn near killed him.
Oof.
He barely made it. I mean, they had to scramble to keep Baxter alive. So I went over there, just to report, on Baxter, and there he was, and I mean, they had kept him alive by then, but I got the story of what a close call it was for Baxter and so on and so forth, and I met his wife, and talked with him, and wrote him up and so on. So I stayed in touch with him a little bit as time went by because he was my Baxter. He was the guy who'd been in that wreck and nearly got killed at Richmond. So whenever he'd show up at the track, I'd talk to him, and NASCAR. He was always in some old car. I remember Bill Gasaway, who was the tech chief at the time, threw him out of one race for some kind of violation, and I got all over Gasaway and said, "What on earth are you doing with this guy? Why aren't you in second Richard Petty's car that closely?" And Gasaway says, "These old cars, it's like you go into the hood and it's like a honeysuckle thicket. You never know what you're going to find in there." And so on and so forth. So I was always kind of talking to him and everything. It took him till 1977, Baxter. It took him to 77 to get back to Richmond. So he comes back to Richmond in 77, and he told me he was coming. He said, and this is, again, the September race. All that time has gone by, and he comes back to the September race in 77. And by then, there are other people around me who know him as well, and we got to talking about it. And we said, well, here's Baxter, who has his own car. He never has a sponsor, or if he does, it's if he did, it was some tiny little somebody's garage, And we said, let's do something. So one of my friends said, let's just everybody sign up. And I think it was $20 a shot, and we just write our names on the hood on the red trunk deck. And so word got around, and I think I did a story about that they were going to do it. And I don't know, it was probably 150, 200 people at $20 a pop. And I don't know, Channel 12 got in on it and threw in $100 or something like that. And so there was a little bit of money, probably the best sponsorship Baxter had ever had. And we just sort of took him under our wing that weekend and took care of him. And this was, I mean, he was overcome. He couldn't believe that people were being so nice to him. He said, yeah, you're back at Richmond. The track is so rough on you. And then Richmond was a long time before it became a 3/4. It was still a half mile. And so Baxter bought an extra set of tires and said, I'm going to do, usually he would just make the race and take that last place money or close to it. But he gave it everything he had for that race. Well, I'd be happy to say that, it was a miracle, and he had a top 10 and and all that. But in fact, he crashed out.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
He lasted like 360 laps of the 400 and caught a piece of the wall, and that was that. And he went on to race for several more years, but he never had a top 10. I don't think. He was 20th at his return to Richmond, and all that. But here's the fun part. We had a picnic, a cookout for him. Again, it was just all these people. Howard, what was his name? Pinchevsky, Fumes for Junie Donlevy. Was painted Don Levy's car, the names and all the. That was back before you had these plastic wraps that's put on a car. You'd have to paint it. And Fumes was the guy, and he painted. We just go get him. We got 5 more names, and he would come over and he would paint them on there. That was his contribution, was doing all the painting. But so we just took care of Baxter. And we had this big cookout on Saturday night. And it was people were just bringing beans. It was a BYO dish sort of thing. But all we had was like hot dogs. And the day before, I was, given hey, come on out to the Holly Farms chicken processing plant out on Staples Mill, because they were going to have a press thing for Cale Yarborough. Cale was driving for Junior Johnson. Holly Farms sponsored him, so he was out there, doing a meet and greet with the employees and making nice with them, and that was fine. He was there, and I went out there to see him. And when they were done, he had driven around in a forklift and all that, and had a little fun with folks out there. When they were done with that, the Holly Farms chief of the plant came up to me and handed me this big box of chicken breast. I mean, I could barely carry the thing. It was a long, wide box. And normally I would have said, "Oh no, I'm never. Thank you very much, but you just keep this, give it to somebody else." But I just thought, I think I've got a use for this. So I thanked them, and I took it, to the folks who were having the cookout, and we went and bought us some barbecue sauce, and we had one terrific cookout, compliments of Junior Johnson and Cale Yarborough and Holly Farms. And it was luxury. I mean, we just laid it on thick, and had a good time of it. Again, Baxter gave it all he had. He probably was running in top 15, maybe even getting close to a top 10, which he never got in his whole career, if I'm not mistaken. It was beyond him.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, that's what happens with some people. You get out there. It doesn't mean he was not necessarily all that bad a driver. He was just never in a motivation to do any more than that. I mean, you know, he finished what I'm just looking at. It's 21st in that race. He wrecked 21st of the 28 or so that were in the race, and in his career, which lasted until like 81, he drove 90 races, and he never had a top 10. He made $500 in the purse that night, in addition to the $2,000 or whatever it was that we raised for him. But I mean, he was just going to be at the back of the field. Now, that's just the way it is for some people. You are so glad to be able to race, and that's the way it was with Baxter. He loved the sport. I think he stuck with it and was still a mechanic for many years after that. Lived down in Monroe, so he was right there with where all the teams are. And you know, it was his life's dream, and he lived it. So good for Baxter. I don't put Quinn in that category because I think Quinn House wants to go places. He wants to get better, have a better ride, make more of this ride, and I think he can. I think he will. But right now, he is the target for everybody who's got a complaint. He's you know, he made a mistake yesterday. There's no doubt about it. But sometimes you make mistakes. Everybody does, and he's a rookie, and he's going to make a few. Most of the time, he doesn't. He's back there racing for 20th, and he races hard for whatever, wherever he can race for. But he's not going to, he's not going to run up front. And the main thing is to keep his nose clean, stay out of the way. And that's the way it is.
And I think if you're a driver, you'll tell you, if you got one of the slowest cars in the field, one of the hardest things that you can do is to constantly be getting out of the way of folks who are faster than you.
Sure it is. And because there you are, you really are racing. I mean, you can call somebody a stroker all you want to, but everybody out there on that track is racing somebody else.
Yep.
There's somebody you want to race and somebody you want to be in position to get around and get by and to hold them back. And while you're doing that, then here comes somebody lapping you and maybe lapping you again. And you can't, you can't be getting in their way. So you got to give up whatever advantage you got on the other guy who's running 22nd and you run 23rd. You might have been right in position to pass him, but you can't do it right then. You got to let somebody go. And that's a tough thing. It's, as you say, it's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, and what a lot of these bigger teams or more seasoned drivers, I don't know if they understand it or not. Maybe I'm sure they do. But the sport needs those final 10, 15 cars. If you don't have those guys that can't or don't normally run up front, you won't. I mean, you won't have a race. I mean, there's just not enough cars to do it. I mean,
and it's always been like that.
It's always been like that. I mean, it doesn't matter what in what time frame that you're talking about. Even at short tracks, you still need those guys that are 15th on back, because they're the ones that fill the field out and make it a great race. And they also are the ones that make that come every once in a while. They'll get a win.
Yeah.
And then now you got a story. So without those guys, and I think some of these guys they don't realize that they made mistakes coming up through the ranks. And it is what it is. I mean, he apologized. He knows he knows he made a mistake, and he'll learn from that. I mean, I'd like to see some of these guys that are 15th on back be put in a car that can win. Mm-hmm. That some of these guys are racing in equipment that no matter what they do, unless the top 15 wreck out, they're not winning.
Yeah, sure. And as you say, they all make mistakes. Jeff Gordon took a good little while to win a race.
Yeah.
And he chewed up a lot of Rick Hendricks equipment.
Yeah.
on the way to it.
Yeah, his first race out, I think he backed it no fence at Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean he was getting to be notorious, and he was fast. He was quick. He was quicker, than Quinn House is. He's quicker than Baxter Price was relative to the field, sure, because he had great equipment. But he was chewing it up. I mean, he was not. He didn't all of a sudden start running top 5, not to finish anyway. Mm-hmm. And so that's what happens. I mean, it takes a while. You gotta learn how to do it. And I think Quinn's doing what he can with the equipment he has. It's where he is right now, and he made a bad move yesterday, no doubt about it, and he knows it.
Well, we want to thank you again. I mean, that's a good tie-in. Yeah. That Baxter Price, the Quinn Half. I mean, that was a great tie-in from in history. Back in the half-mile Richmond days to now current days. So that story was a great tie-in, folks. If you haven't read the column, you need to go to racingvirginia.com and click on the Quinn Half article and read all the other ones that. Randy puts a lot of time and effort into these things, and they're great stories. So go to the website and check them out. As always, Randy, we can't thank you enough for, telling us all these stories.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I get a kick out of it every week. They don't always quite tie in like this one did, but yeah, glad to talk to you.
Well, folks, he is, of course, Randy Hallman, and that was story time with Randy. So there's always good stories that come out of this. There really are.
And I think that's going to be stories to infinity because we're not going to be able to tell all of them. So I'm looking forward to what's ahead.
Yes. Speaking of what's ahead, hopefully, cross our fingers, we're going to have a really good show next week.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say.
It's going to be a really good show regardless.
Yes, but it might have a really, really famous guy.
Yeah. We shall see.
We shall see. Cross our fingers.
Yeah.
It's tentative.
Uh-huh.
I hate that word.
Yeah, tentative.
Tentative. I hate that word.
Yeah.
Because it means, okay, we got a schedule, but he might cancel.
Yeah.
Last minute.
He's got a lot of things going on.
He does. And when I don't want to mention his name because if we can't get him this week, we'll get it. Yeah. Look, we will get him at some point. Okay, but our fingers are crossed because the guy we're talking about is tentatively
coming on the
show next
Monday.
week. Yeah, on Monday. So I'm telling you what, really, Willie Mullins.
Yeah.
Surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Did not expect that interview to be like that. And we're going to get you a cart ride.
Yeah. Are you not coming with me? Are you not going to do it?
If I come, I don't know if I'm racing.
Come on, man.
Because I'm telling you right now,
will you go on the track by yourself?
Oh, I've done that before.
I'm just saying.
I've done that before.
No.
I've done that before.
Okay.
Now, if we can talk Willie into like a cookout or something,
okay. Yeah.
Your food. Now you're talking my language.
We'll bring Randy and we'll get some Tyson Holly Farms chicken and some barbecue sauce, and we'll have it up right.
And then a Brenden Queen, Butterbean. It's just that interview I think went way better than I expected it in my head.
Well, I mean he articulated his side of the story absolutely perfectly, and for anybody who was still mad at him or something, how could you?
I'm going to say it again. And I'll say it 100 times more. Leave the bottom open because you're worried about the guy on the outside. Someone's going to take that spot,
and he did.
Okay, I've seen it a million times, and it not only at Langley. So when you got your shot, you have to take it. I mean, $10,000 on the line. Do I want to finish first or do I want to finish third?
Yep. He finished first.
I'd rather finish first.
Yep.
Okay. So, as always, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to listen to these interviews. I know our podcasts have been a little bit more lengthy than we did the previous 2 years. It's making one of our bosses happy.
Yeah.
Because he says that's a real podcast.
Uh-huh.
Okay. He likes the length of it. And then, of course, we can't thank you enough for going to our social media channels and listening because, Brenden has been very generous. He has cut up some of these interviews and actually placed the whole interview in our social media channels.
Yep.
So,
would be doing some more of that stuff. Getting more involved on Instagram and just giving you places to be able to consume all this stuff. Yeah,
IGTV.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that we're starting to see our numbers for people that follow the show on our social media, starting to see our numbers go up.
Yep.
We can't thank you guys out there enough for that.
Yeah, so give us a follow.
Yeah, give us a follow. You're the social media guy.
I am.
Go ahead, give it.
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Racing Virginia.
And YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
YouTube is coming.
Sweet.
Sweet. In fact, if we can get it all worked out, I hope to have that channel up and running
with a bunch of new and old content.
Yeah, we're gonna start with the new content, and then we'll add back the old content. The shows from the previous years. But we're on show number 75. That's a lot of shows to put up.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get it.
It's all good.
We'll get it there. I might hire somebody to do it.
We can do it. We get somebody to do it.
Oh, Lord have mercy. As always, for Brenden Brown, I'm Dave C. We say thank you. Be kind to everyone. Stay healthy. And most importantly, keep racing, Virginia.